Ready?
Yes, ready.
Hello, everybody! You're supposed to say hello at the same time. No one says hello at the same time. Okay. Take two. Alright.
Hello, everybody!
So, today we have a super special video because I have my good friend, Lily. Woohoo! Today we will be talking all about networking,
personal branding,
and LinkedIn, outreach, all that kind of stuff. So like basically how can you get to know people and maintain relationships is going to be super key to today's video. The reason why I picked Lily to be the guest for this is because she is like senpai level at networking. I will let Lily do her introduction because it is so impressive.
My name is Lily. I am an Australian Chinese here in Singapore. I've been here for 2 years now, and currently I'm working in one of the largest tech companies in the world. It's worth $100 billion, hasn't IPO'd yet. Maybe you can guess what it is.
Okay, she can't share because she hasn't officially started her new role yet.
Yes, but I've just got the job offer and one of my connections actually referred me into this role, and I knew about this role actually before they were even listed online. That's why it's definitely important to like create relationships, create connections so that you're on the top of their mind.
Yes.
So apart from that, I have been on LinkedIn for the last like couple of years building up my personal branding. I built 2 7-figure businesses, and honestly like that helped my business a lot. I actually don't remember how many LinkedIn followers I have, but it's in the tens of thousands.
Okay? Not just connections, followers on LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn influencer influencing people. She's gotten sponsored by Asus to promote their laptop before, bro. She's being too humble, but like you have met so many senior execs.
You name it, like VCs, accelerators, like big
Google,
companies.
Facebook, Netflix.
They're all like MD of like Netflix, like MD of PwC, CMOs, billion-dollar tech companies, all like kind of C-level VPs, directors.
We have tons to share today. And I've collected all your questions from Instagram, so we will be going through all your questions as well.
Yeah.
As usual, it will be a relatively long video, so there will be timestamps, so feel free to skip to whatever section you feel like will be relevant for you, although I obviously think this whole video should be very relevant and you should totally watch the whole thing.
Yes, watch the whole thing.
Okay, so let's get started right away. All right, so first things first is how do you do the outreach, especially if you are reaching out to people who are more senior than you are, or you have absolutely zero relation to them because you're changing industries?
So there are kind of 2 big categories of gaining these connections, and one is outbound, which is basically you reaching out to people, and one is called inbound, where basically you're building up your personal branding so strong that people are actually reaching out to you to be connected.
I really like this one. I feel like this inbound one is not talked about enough because everyone always talks about like how do I stalk and add. It's more the proactive. This one is sort of like passive. It's like over time people will come to you more and more.
And I think the biggest misunderstanding is that you have to be someone famous, you have to be someone who's like high profile, but actually, you know, even when I was like a student at university and I was trying to build up my business, I still had inbound requests from people who are directors from like Huawei and Microsoft. So as long as you can build up that personal branding, it actually doesn't matter who you are. We'll talk about outbound first. So outbound, there's 2 general types. One is when you directly cold outreach. What that means is that you're reaching out to them when you have no connection with them to begin with. And the second type is warm outreach, where you tend to have a referral or someone already has like a mutual connection that can help introduce you so that it's easier to be connected. Let's talk about cold outreach first, because it's probably the most common if you don't have existing relationships with people that can introduce you.
I think there's actually a general structure that we both do this, and because it's just the most effective way. There is the intro, which is basically you just drop a fact about them, like talk about them, okay? Everyone loves when people talk about themselves.
Yes.
And then I think afterwards is like, what is the purpose? Are you organizing an event, blah, blah, blah. And then last is your call to action, or like, what do you want to do? Do you want a coffee? Do you want a video call? Like what it is. I think first one is, how do you get them to even want to read your message? I think the first sentence is probably like
super important.
Super important.
Yeah. The most generic ones always fail. The first part of your message should always be like, why are you reaching out to them in the first place? Like, how do you connect with them? So I often like to Google their name, do a little stalking, understand like who they are as a person, what they value. If I see an article that they were in or featured in, then I can be like, hey, I saw this article that you were in. I gained these insights, 1, 2, 3. I reached out to someone from Impossible Food and they had written an article. So I said, really great to be connected, but I'm reaching out because I saw the Creativity Suite article that you were in around skeptics and the otherware. I thought that it was really interesting on the way you are striving to create a new market and also working for a company that is disrupting a norm. Bracket, I love it.
Love it. The little quirky like, personality elements, like add like emojis if you need to, honestly. Like don't take yourself too seriously. Like being genuine is such a big part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, so you just want to come across that you really did their research on this person. If they decide to comment on it afterwards, then you have something to actually like talk about as well. Another example with the CMO of HP was I had read your WARC and Adage articles. Really love your work around constantly reinventing the brands that you work with and adapting locally. That's just something that she had mentioned.
If you're on the receiving end of that message, like there's no way you can interpret that negatively. You know what I mean? Like how can you hate someone or not want to help someone who did so much due diligence on you?
Exactly.
So I think it makes it more difficult for them to say no or ignore you.
Exactly. Then you can move on to what you want from them. There's a couple of different ways depending on what your agenda is, whether it's inviting them to be a speaker at your event, or even when I was just like moving to Singapore, I'm sure like you can relate. Like I didn't know a single person. I just literally said, hey, I just moved to Singapore and I would love to connect with people.
Yeah, that is a good part for me to ask this question, which is how can I start as a fresh graduate with no networking or nothing to offer, or like networking strategies for college students? You know, basically how do you get started? Yeah, I wish I can turn back time to when I was a fresh grad, because that's when you can pull the sympathy card. It's like, hey, I'm a fresh grad and I don't know much. I want to connect with people. Or for you, it was like, I'm new to Singapore.
Yeah, I'm new to Singapore.
I was once in that position.
Exactly.
Like, I don't think you should hide the fact that you're new or you have no whatever. Like,
use that to the max.
Yeah, because like now we can't do that.
Or you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't.
Use whatever you are interested in and whatever circumstance you have and use that to your advantage.
Yeah, for sure. And the last part, call to action. Any tips there?
So your call to action has to be very specific.
Okay.
So for example, I always give them 2 dates so that they feel like they can pick one of the 2 dates.
Oh!
So rather than saying like
yes or no, it's like,
yes
I already assumed you're coming.
Exactly. So I'll be like, these are the 2 dates that I have available. Are you free sometime between 10 to 4 p.m.? So then they'll be like, okay, I'm not free on the 10th, but maybe I can do the 16th. Or even if they're not free on either of the 2 dates, they pick a third option.
So for the call to action, what if you can't meet up with people in person? Obviously in person is always ideal. Like you want to grab a coffee, blah, blah, blah. So what if it's COVID or they live in a different country? How do you feel about video calls? Are there any tricks or tips that you have about
absolutely
from far away?
I would do the same thing, call to action, but then ask for a Zoom call. This is actually really good because it's an extra excuse to meet them the second time, because now you can be like, oh, we met on Zoom the first time, let's catch up in person. After this lockdown is over, you're basically building a next step.
Yeah, if I'm doing a video call with someone, I send max 30-minute calendar invites, because I just think it's better to have 30 minutes and run out of time that you want to have like a second meeting for it. The last thing you want is you blocked out an hour of their time and you actually, it's like a little bit awkward, you don't know how it's gonna be. So I feel like 20 to 30 minutes for online meetings is actually the sweet spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of you guys ask questions about how can I find a mentor? How can I be a good mentee? What's your view on mentorship and stuff like that?
I mean, so technically I do have a couple of who I would deem as mentors, but I would never say to them, hey, do you want to be my mentor? You want to give them a little carrot. Let's just like catch up once first. And then maybe after you catch up, what I tend to do is increase the engagement with that person. So for example, I will start liking all of their posts whenever they post on LinkedIn. I will comment, then they reply. Every interaction helps build out that trust between you and that person, so that eventually they, post some sort of like thing on LinkedIn and said, hey, I got promoted or whatever. You can be like, hey, congratulations, like slip in a message here and
let's catch up.
And then like, oh, I've got this update. You know that thing that we talked about last time, that first meeting that we had? Yeah, let's catch up. Like, let me show you what I've actually done to improve during this time. So then you start actually building up that warmth and that rapport between that person. Then you can start like meeting up with them more regularly. But I would not advise to be like, hey, like I want you to be my mentor and let's like
I choose you.
next 10 weeks, like let's like have a like I personally don't like that commitment.
But just like be
Yeah,
mindful
and
that
empathetic with
Yeah.
that person, you
Yeah,
know?
for sure.
That person has their own life.
we talked about cold outreach.
Yes.
Now let's talk about warm outreach. Is there any particular tips?
Oh yeah, if you actually have someone who's a mutual friend who can do a warm introduction, great. But the second is if you don't have that warm introduction, but you want to make it seem like you have a warm introduction, what can you actually do? One thing that I like to do is when I'm looking on LinkedIn, I look at people's posts and who they tag in that post. And if I want to reach out to the person that they had tagged, then I would say, hey, you know, I actually heard about you through this person's post on LinkedIn. Then you're reaching out almost like a warm lead, and it doesn't matter if you don't actually even know that person. You're already connected on LinkedIn. Don't be like, oh, I heard about you, who's my really good friend, you know, in case they ask. But you can be like, hey guys, I heard about you from this person, so I'm reaching out to you now.
That's so good. That's so good.
Hey.
Okay, cool.
What you can do is also go to that person's LinkedIn profile, go to their post and like and comment their post before you actually reach out to them. Because what happens is that the algorithm on LinkedIn tends to favor posts that have a lot of engagement, and that author will tend to actually reply to you and be like, oh, thanks.
So they at least recognize your name.
They recognize your name,
Yeah.
exactly.
Awesome. So that's
Yes,
outbound type
outbound.
of connecting. Inbound is actually a whole big subject as well.
Another level.
So inbound is basically you make yourself so attractive that people are coming to you.
Yes.
And that basically ties back to personal branding. Let's talk about the general stuff, which is tips on building / posting on LinkedIn for personal branding, and what is an untapped opportunity for developing your personal brand.
Yeah, let's get started with making personal branding posts on LinkedIn. So there are different types of posts. There are posts that you post about people that you meet, other people. There's posts about yourself, and there's like more like thought leadership posts around a specific topic. Regardless of which type you pick, I kind of structure my posts, which I have actually distilled from viral posts. And I found that like 85% of the time, it's gotten like at least 200, 300 likes, if not to 1,000 likes.
And you have like some
engagement.
viral posts with like over 100-something thousand views and impressions on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So what's the secret tip?
First of all, the first line has to be the showstopper.
Okay.
Could be controversial.
Clickbaity.
Clickbaity, exactly. The thing is that with LinkedIn, it only shows the first line, right?
Yeah.
So then, unless you stop people in their tracks, they're just gonna keep scrolling, and they need to press the see more. The see more will activate like the engagement. For example, my primary school teacher told my parents I would never amount to anything. That's pretty clickbaity, right?
This is so clickbaity.
Everyone called me crazy. I quit my first corporate job at 18.
She's the master of clickbait.
Like,
why'd
it's
you quit your
clickbait.
job?
Yeah, then
What
for
are you
example.
doing now?
Second thing is that you break up your paragraphs into individual lines or in very short paragraphs.
That is so true.
I know that doesn't have to do well like this, but when you're reading and scrolling on a phone, you don't want to be reading one whole freaking paragraph. By actually making it line by line, it makes it so much more digestible. So the third thing is that you want to share your story. Usually I will start off with some experience that I've experienced, or it could be a book that I've read, so that it's personal to me. If you feel like you have nothing to share, just like draw from past experiences, draw those like connections together, and you'll have something insightful to say. I posted about my running, which I've been running with Sherry and some of our friends, and so I decided to share like my experience going from 2 kilometers to 10 kilometers. Okay, not even that impressive, but it got 120,000 views and 862 likes. And it's not even related to work.
But okay, you somehow turned that into like an inspirational, like motivational post.
Yeah.
So I think regardless of what you like, honestly, if you like a certain type of topic and you feel like you can make posts about it, just do it and do it consistently-ish, or as well as you can.
Yeah. And then number 4 is, how does this actually relate to the audience? No one gives a crap about my own experience unless I can actually bring some value to the audience. And so I will normally share what are the insights that I have gained, or what should the audience gain from this experience. And then finally, I always have a call to action. Usually the call to action is engagement with your post. So I talked about one around me being David and Goliath, being the underdog. I asked the audience, when was a time that you were also have experience being the underdog? It's like an experience that is specific enough, but also it's relatable to other people so that they can also comment their own experiences. The thing with the LinkedIn algorithm is that every time someone likes your post, someone comments on your post, it is instantly shared to all of their network.
Yeah.
So you can get that viral effect like very, very easily.
LinkedIn is actually a place where you can really build it from scratch without too many barriers. Because I think, for example, if you want to be big on Instagram, it's quite difficult nowadays. It's obviously oversaturated.
Yeah.
It's the discoverability is not that easy on Instagram as well. But LinkedIn, the feed allows for so many people who are not your first connections to pop up on your feed because your network engaged with them. So I think it's a really good thing. And I think also one really important tip, this is for any social media platform as well, is the algorithm tends to favor things that are native to the platform. So let's say I want to promote this YouTube video on my LinkedIn. I would not be posting a link to my YouTube video. I would be posting a snippet of this video. When you retain people on the platform actually favors that. So just keep that in mind.
So if you do actually want to link people off platform, then you post it in the first comment of your post.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it doesn't penalize, and then you just say link is in the first comment.
I didn't know that. Okay, I'll be sure to do that when I promote this video on my LinkedIn.
Hey.
Now the question is, how do you create an online presence without worrying about what friends and family think?
First of all, like if you are being very true to yourself, then you shouldn't have to worry about what they are thinking. So like with LinkedIn, I think the common mistake or like the myth is that it has to be purely professional. But I actually think that that comes off as like a very one-sided,
it's kind of like boring, dude.
Yeah, like often the people who do the best are people where you can see their flaws, you can see their failures, you can see like all their different interests.
People showing like the behind the scenes of their video calls and like the chaos, or like, you know, so many people don't wear pants during video calls as well. Like that's all on personal branding. Anything else you want to add there?
So like anytime that you meet up with a mentor, let's like go back to the outbound. You've outbound reached to someone, you've created a connection, you've had a coffee chat. The best way to keep in contact with someone and they will feel like so honored is that you create a post about it afterwards on LinkedIn and you share, you know, these are what I learned about this mentor that I just met up with, and instantly that solidifies that relationship with that person. And then the great thing is that when you tag them, obviously it's about them, so they're gonna like it and comment, and all of their network will see as well. So that's how you can quickly like build up your network, is
you just tag along to like different people and different things.
As long as it's relevant to what you're trying to make.
It's a great tip. Yeah, great tip. That was everything you needed to know about how to get in touch with people, how to get connected. In part 2, we will be talking more about how to network when you're an introvert, and also after you get in touch with someone, how do you maintain the relationship? How often should you meet up with them? How do you make sure it's not awkward? All that kind of stuff. So be sure to stay tuned for part 2, and we will see you guys very soon.
All right, see you. Bye.